Hello again. In this video we're going to move on from what we talked about last episode with the basics from the ME system, and we're going to be giving it a little bit of an upgrade. We're going to start off with the terminals and how we upgrade them and integrate that into the autocrafting and then auto-processing from that. Any likes and comments that you guys can give would be greatly appreciated, as it helps for me to be able to structure my videos better in the future. So we finished last episode with either one of these setups, and in today's episode I'm going to move on with this setup over here. So we had the ME terminal and the ME drive, energy cell, energy acceptor. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, is upgrade our ME terminal, because it is a bit basic. And we're going to move up to the ME crafting terminal. This is made by using our ME terminal with a crafting bench and a calculation process, and put on just as before. Inside we can see additionally we have this crafting terminal, which we can use to craft items into whatever, like that, which makes it really useful because then you're not having to take items out to craft to then put them back in again. That's all good being able to craft inside our terminal, but really we want our system to be able to craft for us. So the next thing we need to look at is the molecular assembler. So this is the block that's going to do all our crafting for us. If we click inside it, we can see it's got this sort of crafting table setup and an output. We can't actually craft it ourselves, but our ME system can. To make the molecular assembler, you're going to need a formation and annihilation core, along with a crafting table, 2 quartz glass and 4 pieces of iron. As you can see, you've got it powered up just through the back here and online, but as it is, can't do anything with it. So we need to combine it into our system. But first, we need to make a pattern to go in here to tell the molecular assembler what to do. And for this we need a pattern terminal. The pattern terminal is a basic upgrade on the crafting terminal. We have all the same things again: space for storage, space for crafting, but we also have this additional section here and this here. So we have two types of crafting that we can do. We can have our basic crafting, which say would be placing an oak log in there will give us 4 planks, and we can encode this pattern in here. So when we put it into the molecular assembler, it will say when we put in 1 oak log, it will give us 4 wooden planks out, like so. And we can actually see it by holding down shift, and it will show us the actual item we're creating. Equally, when we click on the crafting pattern here, we have a processing pattern. This is, I'll talk about this more later, but it's basically saying that if we put a certain item in with a device such as a furnace, it will give us another item out. So how to create the pattern terminal? We go and combine our engineering process with our ME crafting terminal that gives us one pattern terminal. To go with the pattern terminal, we need the blank patterns. These are kind of expensive: 3 iron, 3 glowstone, a Certus quartz crystal and 2 quartz glass. But when we have created one, if you want to recycle it, you can actually hold down shift and then right click, and it will clear the pattern so you can reuse it. So what I've got here is a basic automation on the molecular assembler. I've got a hopper going in one side, I've got power through the back, and inside the molecular assembler I've put our encoded pattern up top. So what we can do with our hopper is put the oak log straight in, and it will craft us 4 oak planks and put it straight back into the hopper for us, which is quite useful really. So let's go and do that quickly. In your own time. So you can see it's pulling out the oak wood and it's crafting as planks for us. And if we look inside, it shows us the craft, and you can see it's putting it into the table and giving us that out as an output. So once again, as useful as this is, it still isn't automated, is it? So what I've got here is a basic setup. I've got an ME pattern terminal, I've got our molecular assembler with our pattern inside it, and a ME drive. And we can see though there's still nothing to allow us to craft. So what we need to do next is be able to allow the system to talk to the molecular assembler. So we actually need to create a ME interface. The ME interface has 2 states. It has the block version here and the flat version here. Both work in exactly the same way. When we click on it, you can see they've got the same interfaces. But The ME interface in its full block form will allow power to be passed through itself, while this flat version won't. When we take a look inside our ME interface, we have three different bits. We have these here that have arrows in them, and we have the spaces here, and we also have 9 slots for different patterns. In the slots the arrows in, when we put items in, this will extract this amount of items from our ME network and place into this slot here. And you can add up more to make a full stack. The slot here is quite obvious, it's where we put our patterns in. So this time, instead of putting them in our molecular assembler like we did before, we're actually going to put it inside the ME interface. So to make the ME interface, you're going to use another formation and another annihilation core, 2 pieces of regular glass and 4 pieces of iron. To get the ME interface into this configuration, you just place it into a crafting station. So along with AE, the ME interface is a mediator between other blocks and mods throughout. So say if we want to work with Ender IO systems, sag mills or alloy furnaces, we can use the ME interface with patterns to talk to it to tell it what to do. I've gone and added our ME interface into our basic system. Once again, ME drive, power, ME pattern terminal. I've got it wired into the ME interface, and then I've got the molecular assembler on the side of the ME interface. As I said before, the ME interface can provide power as well as data, so we don't need any more cabling into the molecular assembler. You can also see it says device online. With this now all set up and working, we're going to go and put our pattern in our ME interface, and then when we click on our pattern terminal, we can see there is a craft button here. Problem being, when we go to craft, it says 27 bytes used to do this craft, but there's no crafting CPUs available. So what this wants to be able to do is put these into a unit, so we need some sort of storage. Another terminal you can make, which is optional but I find useful, is the ME interface terminal. We make it from a illuminated panel, ME interface and an engineering processor. When added to the network, we can actually see all molecular assemblers. We can actually go and take our patterns out of it and put it back in it, so we can allocate better. Up next we have our crafting units. The crafting units act as storage devices that craft. So in order to put our items from our ME network to be able to craft them, they need to get stored into one of these crafting units. As with our other storage, we have 4, being the 1K, the 4K, the 16K and the 64K. So as imagined, this can do 1,000 bytes, about 1,000 bytes worth of crafting, and then they progressively get larger and larger. So to make each one of these, you use a crafting unit that is 2 calculation processors, a logic processor, 2 glass cables and 4 pieces of iron. So these are quite annoying to make. And you go and combine the crafting unit with either a 1K, a 4K, a 16K or a 64 ME storage component. On their own, each one of these can only do 1 craft at a time. So let's say we set off our crafting over here with 1 oak log, say, to get the 4 oak planks. At the same time, we want to use those 4 planks to go and create some stairs. The system will say that there's not enough processing because each one of these can only do 1. To make them be able to do multiple ones, we need a crafting CoProcessing unit. The crafting CoProcessing unit will allow us to do multiple crafts at one time. It will basically split up the amount of crafts needed so the system can handle them. Alongside it, if we have multiple molecular assemblers onto one ME interface, the crafting CoProcessing unit will say split up that craft into all the ones that are joined to it. So if you want to say do 4 crafts of logs into planks and you have 4 molecular assemblers on your ME interface, it will allow 1 log into each, so effectively you can do the craft 4 times as fast. In order to make the co-crafting process unit, you're going to need another crafting unit and combine it with an engineering processor. These are quite useful. I suggest having at least a 1-to-1 ratio, if not more co-crafting units than your crafting storage. So Another block which is useful but not necessarily needed is the crafting monitor. It's made from a crafting unit and an ME storage monitor, and the ME storage monitor is made from an illuminated panel with an ME level emitter. This basically just shows up the craft that you send. So if you send the 4 planks, it will show planks. So once again, I've got the same sort of setup: pattern terminal, ME drive, molecular assembler, ME interface with the pattern already inside it. And if you remember, if we click the next and whatnot, it says that we can't do it. So what I'm going to do next is add a 1K crafting storage unit there, and you notice it changes, and now it says device online. And we're going to add a CoProcessing unit on, and it also changes its colour and says online. Now, the more and more of these we add, it will only count as one device on our network. So notice how this says device online, that would be 1. This will be another 2. The ME interface will be 3. Device online, this will be 4. It doesn't matter about how many of the crafting units you use. If you right click on the crafting unit, you can see everything crafted inside. So this time when we click on the pattern terminal and we click on craft, let's say we want to do 10. Next, it says it's going to use 40 bytes. Crafting CPU, automatic. Okay, so we're good. Let's click start. And you can see it's all going in there. And the crafting is already done. 12 planks out the other side. So quickly going back to our ME interface. As you saw, we had all these spaces for patterns, up to 9. But one molecular assembler can only do one pattern at one time. Luckily, the ME interface has multiple sides. So what we can do is connect up multiple molecular assemblers to an ME interface. And the ME interface will put a pattern into each one when crafting, as long as you have a crafting co-processing unit. That means, so we can actually put another one on this face here, like so, and you'd have your wires going in underneath, like this. So we can talk to you a little bit about the setup of crafting storages. These do form multi-block structures, and there's no real limit to the size or shapes, though there are some rules. It has to be either a cube or a rectangular design. So as you can see, 1K, yep, that's fine. When it changes its colour from what is in my hand to this grey colour, it means it's okay. And we can actually mix in different ones. You can see those two are now working. If we go and add our 4K on top here, you can see it goes this white out. That means it is an invalid structure. 64, fine. If we say go add some more on the front, yep, and again, and again, like that. So finally, we're going to be talking about our processing patterns. I've already clicked on the processing pattern, and what we want to do is tell our system to turn cobblestone into stone. And you will need a piece of stone to actually do this already. So you can click your cobblestone, say, or whatever it is. You could use a ore into an ingot, into the pattern terminal, click your stone over here, and when we click in code, make sure it is on the processing pattern. It's going to tell us that it will create one piece of stone from one piece of cobblestone. So this simple setup, I've got the ME drive and the ME pattern terminal, piece of fluids cable, and I've got a furnace. And I've got 3 different cables coming out. I've got one out the back there just to show you that orange leads to our crafting storage unit. I've got a blue one here that's going into the top of the furnace where our ME interface is. In the interface, we're going to put our pattern, like so. Into the side, I've got something called an export bus, and we create the export bus from 2 pieces of iron, a formation core, and a piston. This is going to export a specific item or items from our ME drive and our ME system. I've chosen coal, so this will always keep the furnace full with coal, as you can see there. So that's quite useful. If you have different fuels, you can just click it in here, click it in, and it will put it there. You can use some of these cards. you can use a capacity card and it will open up 4 more spaces. So if you want to say add blaze rod and lava bucket and whatever other fuels you want to use, another store capacity card will then open up all 9 slots. Underneath I've got a red cable, and this is connected to a input bus. I don't have anything specific in here, and this will take any items from the furnace, take them out and import them into our system. We make an import bus from annihilation core to iron and a sticky piston. So with this basic setup, if we go to our terminal and click on craft a 1 piece of stone and click next, we can see that it's already put it into the furnace and the furnace is going to start smelting it. Now we can use this sort of setup on multiple different devices, say alloy smelters or redstone furnaces. Same sort of setup. You might have to alter their tabs to allow import and export out through, say, through the top or bottom or sides. So if we go back to our ME drive, we can see the furnace is now empty, and click on it, we can see we actually have 1 piece of stone in there. I hope I've gone and given you a good introduction into the processes needed to start up into autocrafting in AE2 and how we can look at autocrafting and autoprocessing within the systems. In the next video I'm going to talk more about channels and devices such as these, about limitations and how we can overcome it, and we'll talk a little bit about subnetworking. I hope this has been a insightful and useful and helpful tutorial. I am planning on making more and hopefully going to get better throughout time. Thank you, and a like would be very much appreciated.